It's Thursday, and you know what that means. That means it's time to ignite the dynamite the day after the dynamite. And welcome to Day After Dynamite. I'm Will Washington. I am officially, one year older than I was the last time you saw me. I'm 35 now. Thank you. But I'm not alone here. I, as always, am joined by a guest. But this guest in particular is one I've wanted to have on for a while. She is question asker extraordinaire. You've heard her all over. And she is Miss Stephanie Chase.
Hi, Will. Happy birthday. Belated birthday.
Thank you. How are you? I am great. I just realized there's an underscore in your handle at the bottom, and there shouldn't be. Because
there should not be.
Yeah, there should not be. I'm going to fix that. But thank you for being here on Day After Dynamite, Stephanie. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. It's great to be on Fightful. I love Fightful. And yeah, it's nice to virtually see you. I've seen you so many times now in person this year.
Yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Of course. Full Gear, if people don't know, is my birthday.
Oh,
so
snap.
Yeah.
You share a birthday with my mom, by the way. Which, sorry,
actually,
Mom, I have to your birthday for Full Gear. But
so my birthday's the day after Full Gear, but it's Full Gear for two reasons. One, I'm from Ireland. I live in the UK, so I'm going by that time, even though I'll be in America. So the pre-show will start at midnight, my home time. So therefore, officially my birthday. And then these shows are so freaking long. I'm sure it will run into Sunday anyway. So if you are attending Full Gear, when the pre-show hits and they say we're on air, I would appreciate if the whole crowd shouted "Happy Birthday, Steph." I'm just saying. I bet you someone like Sean Ross Sapp could totally get that to happen.
I think, if anything, because the scrums, especially when we're on the East Coast, always run past midnight, we should just stop the whole scrum and just wish you a happy birthday.
We should. I think I deserve that, especially from Tony.
Yes.
I mean, if he doesn't acknowledge my birthday, he can expect some pretty ruthless articles within the next year. Just saying.
And they're saying I need to refresh. They're saying I've gone robotic. So, Stephanie, you're going to have to hang out here for 2 seconds while I refresh. So, bye.
Bye. Oh my God, has Will left me all alone? Well, guys, yeah, my birthday is, Full Gear, technically, for me. So, I'm very, very excited about that.
Sorry I left you hanging on here. I think I'm okay now.
I just plugged my own birthday again, to be honest.
All good. But either way, thank you, everybody, for, again, that's what the chat's for. And, hey, chatters, if you want to help support the show, support what we do here at Fightful, don't forget, leave us a super chat. YouTube.com/Fightful is where those super chats can be left. Also, leave us a humper chat. Those are at humperchats.com. You can leave those at any point. Just make sure that you identify what show those are for if it's not during the show itself, because sometimes stuff will get read over, and I guess it doesn't really matter if we read it twice, but sometimes you may have been directing it to somebody specific. Humperchats.com is the way to do that. Also, if you're a Fightful Select subscriber, stay tuned, because today is another day of Ask Grapsity. That's coming up here at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here, right on FightfulSelect.com with just your $5 subscription. Look, FightfulSelect.com is a really good deal. You got some great news just in the last couple of days. You learned through Fightful Select that the Kingdom, formerly of Ring of Honor, and I guess now presently of Ring of Honor, and formerly of the Honor No More, they were the OGK in Impact just a couple weeks ago. They actually, canonically, just lost the tag titles on Impact 7 days ago. But either way, you now know that they are all elite. They signed multi-year deals. All three members of the group did, so you're going to be seeing a lot more of them. Matt Taven, of course, was just announced as having a TNT Championship match against Wardlow this Friday on a live Rampage that I think is going to be at the Mohegan Sun, I believe. I think so. But lots going on. Fightful Select. You also learned about Josh Woods. Josh Woods is officially signed to an AEW full-time deal. What other news did we drop this week? I don't know. We got some other details. There's some cool stuff. Oh, yeah, that's right. Also, the Elite. The Elite is back in the building. And
talk about burying the lead, Will.
I know, right? The Elite is back, and we got some details on that. FightfulSelect.com again. All $5. We also have a little cameo being made right now because it wouldn't be Day After Dynamite if I wasn't joined by Jeremy Lambert.
Will Washington! How are you? Wait a second. You get on screen?
Kinda.
It's a dab day after birthday, Will Washington.
Oh, look at that. What is that? Yeah. Oh, man. I wouldn't even. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? But
I'm full of ideas, Will. I'm full of ideas.
Thank you, Jeremy. Did you say hi to Stephanie?
I was going to say hi to Stephanie, who I love your work. You do great interviews. I specifically remember the Wardlow interview and the Chris Jericho interview from, like, I feel like feels like years ago at this point. But I always love covering your interviews. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you, Jeremy. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I know we've interacted minimally on Twitter. As I always say, Will Washington is the forbidden door of media because I just pop up on this show and I say hi to these people who I've talked to a little bit on Twitter, and now I get to see them face to face or through camera to camera.
We're still facing. We still see each other's faces. Yeah.
I'm seeing your face in two parts, and it's a very interesting way to meet someone.
This is my dad.
I like that you come in two halves. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm preferring the left half right now, but you know.
Oh, my better half is in a different room, actually. So
I should warn the chat that I'm a very sarcastic Irish woman. So, like, just in case they're like, what the hell?
Will, it's great to see you. Stephanie, it is nice to meet you. I hope you're feeling better. I read your journey when you were over here in America, and I hope you are doing well.
I am doing well. Thank you very much.
Good. And Will, hope you enjoyed your birthday. Thank you for the scoop. Pre-wrote the story. Love that. Always like pre-writing those stories. Will, got to stay ahead of the game.
Handing things to Jeremy before they happen.
I tell everybody, DM me the scoop so I can pre-write the story. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody. I literally just want to know it, so I'm on top of these things.
Yeah.
Well, I hope your birthday was filled with fantasies fulfilled, Stephanie. Hope you have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jeremy.
You know, it's funny. For those of you that know me, of course, this is a Will Washington thing. However, I'll have you all know, my birthday was full of fantasies because yesterday I went on a 4.5-mile walk. And of course, in doing walks, you always got to have music. And I did indeed listen to the album Daydream by Mariah Carey. And the first track on that is Fantasy. So it was full of fantasies. Hey, Meet Norma sent in a super chat, said, happy birthday, Will. Thank you, Meet Normus. Always appreciate you. And also, yes, as pointed out in the chat, and that was by A Shock, says, Will's Nuggets won on his birthday. I know, right? And you know what's funny? A Shock, I almost went to that game, but tickets were completely sold out. It is amazing that sometimes in basketball, you don't have to be good. You just have to be a draw. Because the fact is, that game was sold out. With people knowing full well the Lakers stink. And they're 0-4 now. LeBron's kind of washed. Sorry. But tickets still sold out because LeBron's in town. So I didn't get to go. All tickets I was looking at were still like in the high 800s. Not going to do it. Not going to do it.
Wow. I was sitting here thinking, what sport is he talking about? So he said basketball. So, okay.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is I could have gone any direction. You could have also just looked at the shirt. But either way. So, the Elite is what we were talking about before Jeremy stopped in. There were rumors circulating all day. I had heard from a couple of people. I got texts around the same time from 3 different people that were like, I think Kenny and the Bucks are at least nearby because I see Don Callis around. It was like
you can't hide him.
Yeah, and it was one of those. There were little things like the way that Brandon Cutler is kind of running around doesn't seem like it has the last few weeks that he's been at Dynamite. It almost seems like he's running around for Matt and Nick. And
he has a job now.
Yeah, so it's funny that pretty like a lot of alerts went off yesterday as far as are they in the building, and regardless, Fightful Select also reported last week, Sean with a great story about just the fact that he felt like there was more movement on the CM Punk and Elite situation than he had ever seen. And so that turned out to be very accurate, very true. We, of course, got a video package that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But either way, the Elite are back. They're going to do something. My guess is Death Triangle, but they're going to do something here soon. There's only 2 more Dynamites, actually, between now and Full Gear. So what is that something going to be? I don't know. But how are you feeling knowing that the Elite are back in the building?
I think it's good. It is good that they're back. I feel like quick story, because Jeremy, when he came on, was like saying, I hope you feel better and stuff. And so I feel like I've definitely invested too much of my life in AW, and then too much more of my life even before AW and CM Punk. So what like Jeremy was referring to, like when I was at All Out is when I realized I am definitely like not well at all. And then when All Out ended, I couldn't go to the scrum because it was just like I could like barely walk. So I had to like get in my friend's car and like go back home. So I'm driving, I'm in this car doing like everything. I can barely walk. And then I'm seeing on Twitter what Punk is doing at the scrum. So it's like my body was like imploding while CM Punk and AEW are like, it's all blowing up. And I was just like, this had to happen this way. Like, this is the moment. And then when I ended up like 3 days later, when it was Dynamite, I was hospitalized, spent the whole day in hospital, like in the A&E bit. And when they finally said, like, you have to be admitted, like, this is it. That was when they brought me onto this hospital room and they were like, well, here's your TV remote. I turned it on. That's when Dynamite started, and they were saying the titles were vacated. And I was just lying there going, I feel like this is in sync. Like my life is in sync with what's going on here in this company and CM Punk. So anyway, I feel a lot better now. And so it's time for the Elite to come back.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
What I think.
It's perfect timing. Yeah.
Definitely. But, spoiler alert, like that whole story will be how I start my autobiography. But I think that it's good to see the Elite back, like regardless of, well, it's silly to like take sides, but the video that they showed, it hit me how much like they are part of AEW, like they're the reason AEW exists. And I want what's best for AEW, and what's best for AEW is keeping those guys around. It would have been kind of best with, Cody too, but whatever. So I'm glad that they're coming back, and I'm glad that there's movement on it. And I hope it's something like we can all put behind us. And I do miss Kenny a lot. Don't miss the Bucks as much, but I definitely miss Kenny. But they're definitely part of what makes AEW special, just having them there. And there's such a connection with the fans. And Elite is in the company's name,
Yeah.
Like,
and they addressed that, though. As a matter of fact, that was the part I found interesting. So we could talk about the vignette anyway, because it was the second thing on the show anyway. So they showed a vignette, and the vignette, which by the way is the graphic of this show in case you're wondering what that image is, but the vignette starts with the original image from the January 1st BTE, which showed them revealing their phones, and they all had Double or Nothing, followed by Hangman turning his around and it said AEW, except then they show that and then they all disintegrate in everybody's comparing it to Thanos, except they didn't dust, but they did They disintegrate.
In this scenario, is Cody Iron Man because he's not coming back. Sorry.
Right? No, that's very good. That's actually not that bad of an analogy. No. So yeah, we did see the. We saw that shot. We see the shot of the Bucks winning the tag titles at Full Gear in 2020, and then celebrating with Kenny. They all disappear, and it's just referee, Rick Knox. Rick Knox by himself, and then we see the shot of Kenny winning the world title with Don Callis, and then he disappears, and we see the shot of all of them in the middle of the ring with Brandon Cutler spraying them down with the cold spray, and they disappear. And then the last shot is the AEW logo, and the first thing that disappears from the AEW logo is the E and the word Elite, and then the rest of the logo goes. And there's no other word said other than it has Kenny Omega's promo from his return playing over it, and you can hear the words start to fade out from it. That was the first time this had been addressed. One of the biggest criticisms people had over the CM Punk and the Elite situation as far as on TV was concerned was that none of it was ever addressed on TV. If you were a TV viewer, one week you have the Elite who were leading up to winning the trios titles. The next week they are not on TV, and there's zero explanation for that. It was never addressed, nothing along those lines. I like that this video package touched on the fact that none of that was ever addressed, because I feel like I got a lot out of this. I got out of this the fact that here's AEW, but the Elite have just disappeared from it. What is AEW without the Elite? That's what I got from this. I thought it did just right in raising the right amount of questions and getting people talking about them again and reintroducing the idea of them to television. What did you think of the video?
Yeah, I thought the video, as I said before, like it kind of got me in the heart in a way that I didn't think it would, because I remember the January 1st, waiting for that moment. It's, they never did address it. And like, you're right about what you would think if you were just a TV viewer. Like the way I started watching wrestling was WCW, and I didn't get pay-per-view. So I was watching Nitro to Nitro. If this same thing had happened, I would have been beyond confused at what was going on. Beyond
you
confused.
Think about things like that for like, if you were ever in that kind of situation, right? And because there are plenty of people in those situations. The pay-per-views only do tens of thousands of eyes, or at least 100,000 at best. The shows do 1 million, so that means at least only at worst 1/10 of your audience is catching these pay-per-views. The rest are probably reading results, things along those lines. And they don't really know what's happening here. Sometimes you got to count on the shows to get you up to speed, and so that had to be really weird for some people.
Really, really weird. So with the way the video was, I am really intrigued with how they're going to bring them back in and give a storyline explanation for their absence that works and won't antagonize anyone. I don't know. I feel like because it showed so much of them being the Elite and the Elite being connected to AEW, I don't know if they're gonna explain it like they had some kind of weird like crisis of faith of being so connected to what AEW was, which also just doesn't make sense that they would have won these belts and then been like, who are we and what are we doing? It's very, very strange. But then at the same time, in a kayfabe world, it's strange that there is a group called the Elite and it's all Elite Wrestling and all that stuff as well. That's just very odd too, like that whole thing. But I think like people are going to be so excited when they come back. I guess they're going to come back and take these silly trios titles and like they were always meant to be. I think maybe everything that happened was just the curse of these trios titles.
Could be. I honestly, I don't.
Literally, like.
I don't know. All I know is like I have been mentally kind of doing the same thing. I've like been mentally fantasy booking their return pretty much since the moment. Because I'll say there were rumblings pretty much last week that look, as far as they're concerned, Everything's good. They're going to be back in the fold. I didn't think they'd even be backstage again till Full Gear. I don't think we'll see them on screen until Full Gear, to be honest. That's my thought.
You think?
Yeah, but they're at.
I'm not sure, just because like people might be watching TV for them to come back, and then though I guess it's like the Bray Wyatt thing. You know, he did actually wait until the pay-per-view, and people were tuning in for it. But yeah,
I guess I could see it a couple ways because I know that. Let me see. Next week's Dynamite is in. Don't tell me.
I know.
Hold on. Because it's the same place, Baltimore. It's in Baltimore, and then a week after is in Boston. I know that Boston show's not selling too hot. I suppose if I wanted to maybe spice up like the Go Home show or that's not even the Go Home show, is it?
No, the Go Home show is Connecticut. I'll be at that show.
That's right. Yes. Okay, so we got 3 more Dynamites then. Okay, so there's time. Because there's Baltimore, there's Boston, and then Connecticut. So they got time. But I suppose if they wanted to move some tickets, that wouldn't be a bad way to do it. Is to advertise the return of the Elite at one of those shows. Knowing that there's 3, I suppose that actually enhances things a little bit more.
Yeah.
And gives them way more time. Because I'm thinking that there isn't a lot of time to just like start adding stuff to this card, but
they love to wait till the end though. Like
they do.
That's AEW pay-per-view booking, you know, but the Rampage before the show add 10 more matches. Like that's what we're used to.
I know, right? But I don't know. We're going to see a bunch. All I know is I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued by the return of the Elite. I want to see the Elite back. I want to see them just back in the fold. I had tweeted a couple weeks ago because people were asking, why would AEW sign the Kingdom? Because I know the Kingdom has their haters, and I know that. But one, I think part of the reason for that is, look, the Kingdom, as far as they're concerned, they've been delivering. Like, they were delivering in that last run in Ring of Honor. I know a lot of people really associate them with their first run. I know a lot of people associate Mike Bennett with really the Mike Kanellis run in WWE, which he wasn't even afforded the opportunity to do much. But, like, a lot of people haven't seen his Boston Strong style lately. Like, I think they do have a lot to bring to the table. I know that I'm good friends with Maria Kanellis. Thank you for the birthday wish, Maria. So I probably definitely hold them in a higher regard than probably most people do. But they also, AEW's lost a lot of tag teams this year. They should be filling the tag team division up. I think that when you think about the fact that they've lost just this year, they don't have Red Dragon anymore. We got to have Top Flight back for all of a month, and then they're not there anymore. They broke up Jurassic Express. They I guess I won't say that one yet. But there's either way, they've lost a bunch of tag teams, and then like they've squashed the Varsity Blondes to the point of where they don't have any, or I guess they're just the Blondes now, but they've squashed them to the point of not having any more credibility. They broke up Team Taz. Like, there's not a whole lot on the tag team front right now, and so any teams they can bring in. Now we've got the Bucks back in the fold, so that's exciting. I think you add the Kingdom into the fold, that's going to be exciting. I think that the more teams you can bring in, the better, and I want to see more teams. But as far as what else you can do, like, I don't know. My brain is like straight jump to, well, let's see. If MJF wins the title at Full Gear, you could do Kenny versus MJF at Winter is Coming. That'd be really exciting. My brain wants to see all of the things, and I want them to do all of the things. We got.
It would actually be such a shame to see them just stuck in the trios bit.
Well, hopefully they do a lot of what they're doing now, except without the losing. But because even with Death Triangle being in trios, we've seen them in a lot of singles action. We just saw Pac last week. 2 weeks ago, he lost the All Atlantic title to Orange Cassidy. Just last night, we saw Penta facing Jon Moxley, and then next week we've got the 3-way with Luchasaurus, Rey Fenix, and Orange Cassidy. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to continue to do stuff that they do while also holding the trios title. So I'm hoping that that is the case. Hey, Tom Talks Rubbish says, happy birthday, Will. Love your work, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And Orion Ben 666 says, the Elite promo is well done. You can spin any way. That's true. Like I said, there's a lot you can take from it. Orion Ben also says, motto for last night, don't pee off Stokely. Ouch. Yeah, apparently so. And we're about to talk about all of that. We also got a Humper chat. This one here is from Jason R. He says, happy birthday, Will. Swerve has the looks, persona, charisma, and skill level of a superstar. I honestly believe by the end of 2023, early 2024, he will have a very successful title run with either the TNT or AEW belt. He shows out every damn time. Agreed. I mean, I was fairly privy to some information while there was a pursuit of Swerve from multiple companies when he was a free agent. And I do know that he was not signed under the idea that he wouldn't be a top talent at some point. Now, some people who watch Grapsody will know when he was signed, I did say, be patient, don't expect the world overnight, but do expect the world. It's not going to happen overnight. He knew. He walked in with the expectations. I think even the tag titles was, and this is just me speaking, but I think even that may have come as a bit of a surprise in the sense of, I don't think anybody was expecting that quickly, but, a lot of people, when they sign under the idea that the show exists currently. And yes, there are ways to be slotted into the way things currently exist. But I think most people are signing with the expectation that things are going to have to move in order for them to be slotted in. That it's not just a case of you sign a contract, I'm on the show, and I'm going to get these prime spots, even though there are already people here who were there before me, who are ahead of me, who are more over with the fans. I think most wrestlers kind of have that expectation. I think the only people who don't have that expectation are fans, because people sign and then they're just like, oh, what happened to him? And it's like, well, again, time. Give it time. Now, I think, Malachi was one of those strange cases where Malachi signed in July of last year, and his signing came as a surprise to everybody, right? Because I don't think anybody knew that he only had a 30-day non-compete clause. And so it was really a case of, well, hell, we have Malachi way sooner than anybody would have thought we have Malachi. So let's just insert him into this Cody program. And so he kind of got the world immediately. But then after that, it was like, well, now we don't have plans for him. And so, I think that is one of those cases, but again, time. Give it time.
Yeah,
I do.
Swerve is certainly making the best of, everything. He's just like being in this tag team with Keith Lee, but just finding a way to like break out of it as the person that just grabs your attention, which can be hard going against the Acclaim that are so over, but Swerve's doing it.
He is doing it, and I'm happy with pretty much everybody in that division right now. Garrett says, we cannot allow Chicago Phil to keep the Infinity Stone. Someone must intervene before he goes after Shawn Michaels next. Okay. The thing I do want to talk about is the other half of this. Shout out to one Nick Hausman, who is the only person besides, I guess, Denise. But then again, she's kind of my partner in crime, so we're always joined at the hip. But I think the only other person I've seen more than you at Scrums this year has been Nick Hausman, who doesn't miss anything.
He's
Nick
a great question asker, great delivery, great questions, great shirts.
Yes. And Nick, funny enough, Nick was the first person addressed by CM Punk at the last media scrum, as people will recall. And Nick got himself a little scoop from CM Punk's camp, in which he got to speak to CM Punk's camp, and they gave him a lot of great detail about things that had gone on. There's reportedly a story now that Larry was injured in the scuffle, that he reportedly had to have a pre-scheduled vet visit, but in the process had to have 2 teeth removed due to the Brawl Out, as Sean Rossap has dubbed it, and it seems to be catching on. So congratulations, Sean. You've won. Brawl Out is the name.
Brawl Out is the name for sure.
But yeah, so there was a lot of detail to come out of that story, and it's all really, really interesting because, of course, the Observer then spoke to the Elites camp, who's denied a lot of it. One of the big pieces that came out of it was that Punk's camp had told Nick Hausman in Wrestling Inc. that Punk felt threatened by the Elite's entry into the room and reacted in a way under Illinois Castle Doctrine laws, which allow for the use of force in defense of a person in their dwelling. And at this time, there is no litigation against Punk against Punk on behalf of anyone involved. So at least legally, there doesn't seem to be any pending cases. Everybody has kind of at least agreed from that standpoint to drop the things. The other thing that was interesting was that following the promo back in May, where Hangman had dropped the little bit of nuggets in that promo about CM Punk that were taken to be referring to Colt Cabana, that after that Punk had concerns. He had distrust going into that event, and he had concerns over the fact that that match could break down into a physical fight. Didn't really do that at all. But I haven't seen that match really since it happened. But I remember it being pretty standard affair wrestling that had a hot crowd. But other than that,
it was uneventful as a match, I must say.
Yeah, it was. You know, it had the moment of Hangman had second guessing himself, and that costing him the championship. But other than that, it was mostly fine. But yeah, this was an eventful week as far as the Elite and CM Punk are concerned, because this is really the first we've gotten to hear some substantial stuff from anybody. What'd you think?
Punk stuff is interesting. So I'll preface all of this by saying I absolutely love CM Punk and accept him for all his faults. But he is definitely a man who, I think we saw this at the Scrum, will be angry at lies that are being reported in the media, but then not actually say anything himself. So, you know, it's like, what are you going to do, man? That's what's happening. It's interesting if he could say like that it's taken this long for stuff to come out, especially something that, you know, like Larry and the teeth seems like a big part of the story that you would have wanted to get out there sooner, considering the other stuff that's out. Mm-hmm. So I think that's interesting. This whole thing about if Hangman was going to shoot on him in the fight, in the match, is like this is the reason why backstage stuff should always just be smoothed out, and we shouldn't have backstage tension in locker rooms that people think is a good thing to make stuff more real, because sometimes people end up acting a bit. It doesn't end up well.
Well, what's interesting is that like backstage stuff has existed forever, and tensions between people in the ring have existed forever. To where, you know, I am curious as to what gave CM Punk that impression. That I asked somebody about this yesterday, and they said that's interesting because Hangman, as far as I know, you know, regardless of, they were like, I've been in the ring. This was somebody who has been in the ring with Hangman, and they said, I've been in the ring with Hangman, and like, he can be stiff from time to time, but I've never felt like he doesn't do anything that wouldn't be for the betterment of a match. That, you know, as far as promos were concerned, again, I said last week, the biggest concern I had about all of that was that, Hangman dropped those, the workers' rights stuff in there, which probably shouldn't have been said if it wasn't approved or anything along those lines. But on the other end of that, Hangman was still selling a match in doing so. He was still selling a match that he was walking into knowing he was losing, and he still went in there and sold the match. And so, I don't know. That's at least what I was given as far as all that's concerned. It's all really interesting because I'm not saying Punk's lying because I don't think he is. I actually don't. I can fully see the injury having happened.
I don't
to
think
Larry.
he's lying. Yeah. But
that said, I've seen a lot of people throwing out there that if Larry got hurt in all of this, then why are the Elite being brought back? The Elite should be fired. All of that. And my thought on all of that is, I don't see anywhere where it was implied, because I even saw somebody use the term animal cruelty, and I don't know anywhere where it's even been implied, because I went up and down the Wrestling Inc. story this morning where it's been implied that anybody intentionally harmed Larry. Like, that's not to say that Larry being hurt is okay, but what I am saying is that it does sound like in the midst of, I guess, bad human interaction, there was what happened to Larry was really unfortunate. But it doesn't sound like anybody had any intention of harming Larry. And it also is sounding like the Kenny story is actually sounding a little bit true, in that from what I've heard, that Kenny was removing Dog from the situation because of the fact that things were happening. But you were at All Out. So the thing that keeps replaying in my head is, you remember before the show had started, Larry got out and was running around the arena. And so that's been playing through my head this whole time, right? And I just keep thinking about that because that was, a fun, cute moment where Larry escaped, got in the arena, and CM Punk had to come out hours before his match into the arena to go retrieve Larry, and there was a big Larry chant, and everybody popped to see CM Punk early in the night. I forgot that happened, but that's just the thing I keep thinking about. In that, wow, that was a cute Larry moment early in the show, and then all of a sudden, now that turned out to be a bit of a negative.
It's I feel like, other than the promo that we know annoyed Punk, clearly he didn't like Hangman before that, because to me, like, that's not enough with the way he ended up taking things and going in on him.
Well, there was one piece that doesn't get talked about a whole lot, which is after the Hangman and so after the promo before Double or Nothing, there was a sit down between Tony, Mega, the Bucks, Hangman, and Punk that didn't go very well. And I think that also has probably played one of the biggest parts in a lot of the feelings from everybody who came out of that specific meeting. And so, as far
as we all knew Punk was gonna end up finding someone to have a huge problem with that would lead to his exit, but who had money on Hangman Page? Because I didn't.
No, I wouldn't have at all.
Who had the money on the handsome cowboy being the guy that just pushed him over the edge?
Remember their first Twitter interaction? Like, we were like, oh, look how adorable this is. Who would have guessed that? I certainly didn't. Anime Otaku says, if we can get some confirmation if Mega was or wasn't there, I think that will show what side is more credible. The Larry stuff sounds fishy to me. Everything I've heard says she was. And that my understanding is that she's one of the key players as far as everything is concerned. That's pretty much all I know in that regard. Let's see. We got another super chat, or humper chat, I should say. I want to make sure I bring this button up on screen. So let's do the old copy and paste, and we'll read Van Twinblade telling us that he says, happy birth, Miss Will. Glory Pro has gifted you Benjamin Trust, ATM, and Moses versus Shota, GPA, and Crash Jackson. And says Karam and Rohit have been added to the Bussy Grindhouse match, while Heidi Howitzer had been added to the Blair, Onyx, and Heather Reckless match. Thank you, Fan Twin Blade, I appreciate the update. Always appreciate Glory Pro updates. And MC Scammer, that's a great name, by the way, gave us one that says, and we'll get rid of a half a word there. This one from MC Scammer says, "Happy birthday, Will. My dad is my favorite Fightful show every week. On my way to a new job interview for Becton Dickinson Medical Supplies Company for a top management position. Wish me luck, bro. Steph, you look amazing as always." Thank you, MC.
Good luck.
Yes, good luck, MC Scammer. I appreciate that. Don't scam your company. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yes, good luck with the interview. I hope you get it. Let us know. Keep us posted and give us an update on how that goes. And so, yeah, that's all the information that we've gotten as far as, I guess, some of the scoops of the week, all the information you're getting from the old dirty sheets. But speaking of dirt sheets, we have a word from our sponsor.
The only good dirt sheets are here at Fightful. You don't want dirt sheets on your bed. That's why you need Miracle Brand. TryMiracle.com/Fightful. That's TryMiracle.com/Fightful. Get a free 3-piece towel set. Save 40% off. These sheets are fantastic. They have great comfort, great quality with those premium 500 thread count sateen weaves that are made with USA-grown Supima cotton. One of the highest quality cottons in the world. It's better for your skin. Stop sleeping on bacteria. These Miracle Brand sheets help prevent 99% of bacteria, require 3 times less laundry than regular sheets, and they're self-cooling with silver-infused fabrics originally developed by NASA. TryMiracle.com/Fightful. Again, TryMiracle.com/Fightful. Save 40% and get 3 free towels. How can you beat that? Get rid of your dirt sheets, well, besides us, and get Miracle.
TryMiracle.com/Fightful.
He should be doing that from a bed or a bath.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. But
yeah,
let's talk about the events of AEW Dynamite, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So, Dynamite this week opens up with a tag team match. We've got the Blackpool Combat Club still going at it with Jericho Appreciation Society. It's funny we were talking about Double or Nothing, which feels like an eternity ago.
Yes.
But also, we saw this feud going back then, and it's still going. Blackpool Combat Club members Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta took on the team of Chris Jericho and Daniel Garcia. This is a team that we just saw 2 weeks ago defeat the team. Actually, no, we didn't see them 2 weeks ago, but we've seen these two in action. You know what I mean? Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara defeated Daniel Garcia and Bryan Danielson. And all of that was to play into the fact that they, for the most part, have been getting the best of the Blackpool Combat Club when Bryan Danielson's involved. But here, there was no Bryan Danielson. How did the affair turn out? Let me tell you, Stephanie. I've been a big Claudio fan for years. I wanted to see him do everything he could possibly do as Cesaro in WWE, and I didn't get to see a whole lot of it. One of the things that AEW crowds are known for being is lively, that they are just into wrestling matches, to the point of where when I watch shows that don't have AEW crowds, it throws me off because of how much I'm expecting sound with certain bits of offense and I'm not getting it. Mm-hmm. Throws me off. This wasn't even one of the better attended Dynamites. This one only had like a little over 3,000 people. And yet, gosh, my point where I'm going here is that I don't think anybody wrestles in a way that's built for this type of crowd more than Claudio Castagnoli. Mm-hmm. His offense is just made to pop these guys. And as Ryan Ben in the chat is saying, that was Chikara Claudio last night. Fully agreed. He was wrestling in a way to pop that crowd and pop them on all of his offense. I wasn't expecting this match to be as fun as it was, but this was a hoot.
Yeah, it was great. I love Claudio as well. I would put, if you asked me to name like a list of the most like underutilized wrestlers in the past like 10 years that have had big platforms, like Claudio would be one of them. And I've been kind of feeling that way about him in AEW too. To be honest, I don't think that they've really used him to his full ability so far. He kind of got a bit lost, and he didn't really get to do anything with the ROH title, but it was really great to see him last night. He absolutely pops the crowd. Like, that's how the whole Cesaro section, was born. Like, this guy gets people going, and like his offense, plus just even the fact he could do the big swing, and then last night he swings Jericho and he's got Garcia on him as well.
On
just
his shoulders.
So impressive. Like, talk about people channel hopping. If I was channel hopping and I saw a guy do that, I would stay on the channel to see that. What else is coming? But it was a really fun match. This storyline that has been going on for a long time between these two factions, like, let's be honest, it's been really long, but there's kind of enough players in it that they've been able to like mix it up a little bit. I'm kind of confused about the Garcia part, like where they're actually going with it, and him turning back to Jericho in Canada especially was a confusing element. But that's one of those things where, like, I don't want to be too down on that in case it turns out it was some grand plan. However, I'm not really sure that there's a grand plan that would make sense for it happening in Canada when it was seen as a face thing. But anyway, like, that's kind of just the problem I had with it. But great match, and Claudio getting the pin. I'm happy to see that, and I hope like this means we get a bit more Claudio on our TV.
I hope so. Now, granted, there's still the rumors out there, and I'm hearing that everybody is pretty confident in them. That Ring of Honor is going to have its own show, and I can't imagine that, considering when and where Claudio was brought in, that he was going to be a significant part of that show when it becomes the show it's supposed to be.
I hope this show happens. Like, they need it so much. I'm not against the Ring of Honor stuff, but at the same time, like what we were talking about earlier with how many people there are on the roster and different visions and bringing different people in and people that we don't see much of, like, we need a separate show for this Ring of Honor stuff. Like, it has to be given it.
I talked to somebody on Tuesday. What day is it? Today's Thursday. So yes, I did talk to somebody on Tuesday who does anticipate being a part of that Ring of Honor roster. And they're talking like the show is a go. They're talking like, yeah, once that show is going, this is what I'm going to be doing. And it all sounds really interesting that, Brian Alvarez dropped just last week that there's rumors of, or he said the announcement is imminent as far as when that happens on, as far as an HBO announcement and it being a streaming deal. So we'll see. I feel like we're close. So
yeah,
let's hope that that's the case. But yeah, this was a great match. I thought, again, Yuta still remains really over. Every time I think about the idea that has his star faded at all, not really. No, the fans are still really into him. They still love him as a wrestler, and I don't know. My wife still thinks he's hot, so like, there's that's still the one person she remarks on more than anybody.
Wow. Okay.
I know, right? Not what I was expecting either. The first time she said that to me, I was like, "Really, Wheeler Yuta?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "He's so put together. I love Wheeler." And so there's that. Jennifer in the chat agrees. So regardless, and Wheeler got himself a moment after the match.
Yeah.
So, and Chaz is also saying his girlfriend thinks the same. I guess it's just everybody's
Wheeler Yuta for the ladies. Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's the case here. So we after the match was over, Renee Paquette, who was a major part of this show, Renee Paquette is backstage, and she's interviewing Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is talking about how frustrated he's been that he lost over Daniel Garcia and he lost the Ring of Honor Championship match, and then in comes Wheeler Yuta and Claudio. Wheeler Yuta gets in Bryan's face, and it's just straight up like, well, because Bryan, when he talked about Wheeler, he said that Wheeler was talking back to him. And I thought that was an interesting way to address him, because then Wheeler comes at him like, no, you're not going to talk to me like I'm a child. I'm a man here. We just won. You are the one who's got to get your head on straight, because it seems like you're the one who couldn't see through Jericho, couldn't see through Daniel Garcia, and they both got one over on you. And Claudio finally stops them. He reminds us, hey, it's Wheeler Yuta's birthday. By the way, me and Wheeler Yuta, we share a birthday. But, and then Claudio, I lost.
Oh, sorry, my camera just went off, but I'm still here, so continue.
Okay, that's okay. We have a picture of you, and that's good enough at the moment. But so we have Wheeler and Claudio and Bryan. And what was really cool here, and what was a really cool moment, was the foreshadowing that I didn't realize. Again, my favorite thing in pro wrestling is when a show can thread itself together. And I loved how one little thing said here ended up making the show thread itself in a way that nobody realized it was going to till the end of the show, which was Claudio shuts up Wheeler and shuts up Bryan and says to them that after your match, Bryan, we need to go in a room and we need to talk. And okay, everybody agrees that they're going to take themselves into a room and talk. What I wasn't expecting was how that would come into play later. And that was actually a really cool little way to tie the show together. I assume that I hear shuffling, that Stephanie's back.
Oh, I am here. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what they're doing with Danielson and Yuta. There's like something in AEW where like there's a thread of people. It's like never meet your heroes. You hear that so much. And there's this thread of this in AEW. And I don't know if maybe this is like Tony Khan working out his own issues with CM Punk and stuff that's happened. But, like it was so, we had the Punk and MJF stuff. And now we have Daniel Garcia and his feelings on Bryan Danielson and Jericho and Wheeler Yuta and Danielson. And there is just this, it's something that I feel like we don't really see in WWE, like people acknowledging like growing up idolizing other wrestlers and how these relationships, how do relationships work when you end up working with someone that you idolized on TV, because it's not going well for Wheeler Yuta and Bryan Danielson right now.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. And that is happening a lot throughout the show. Mm-hmm. But hey, isn't that normally the case? So the next match was Swerve in Our Glory versus FTR. Now, I know I tweeted out my thing yesterday, and then I revealed that I just tweeted out a bunch of stars, and apparently I was short 2 stars. Oops. But the thing I was tweeting out was Swerve in Our Glory is going to be FTR, and folks are going to be really mad about it. And I'll say this, just confidently, I did not get that from Swerve, but because he didn't even know I knew that. But sure enough, the FTR did lose. And the funny thing was, I knew that a week ago, and I was like watching people tweet out, wow, it sounds really interesting that FTR is just going to be facing the Acclaimed. And I thought, you guys are just really writing off Swerve in Our Glory here. You guys have no idea that FTR is not winning that match. And I sat on that. As a matter of fact, that tweet sat in my drafts all week until I was like, all right, I'll tweet that out before Dynamite. But it was just funny to sit on and watch everybody dismissing Swerve in Our Glory, not realizing that FTR was never going to win that match. That FTR has multiple other programs going right now. They've got the Gun Club stuff going right now. You literally have the Kingdom declaring that they want the Ring of Honor tag team titles back, the titles that they never got their rematch for. And it's just really funny that everybody still expected that FTR was going to beat Swerve in Our Glory, go on to face the Acclaimed, when there is a story playing out here. And it's a long-term story that's playing out here. But there is a story unfolding within all of this that is going to make sense, played out in this match. And to talk about the match, this was great. This was... Welcome back, Stephanie. Glad I see you again.
Sorry. I overheated. My camera overheated.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know that was a thing. I guess I did know that's a thing.
I haven't used this camera enough. Yeah.
But yeah, this match was great. I loved FTR's showing here. They've had some great showings all year. We know that a lot of the match of the year conversation is going to include FTR because, you know, they had the 2 great matches with the Briscoes. They just had a really great match with Aussie Open. We know what FTR brings to the dance. But this was, I'd say, up there with at least the best FTR TV matches this year. I thought that, because the best one is probably the Young Bucks earlier this year. This is up there. This was really good. I loved this entire showing. Keith Lee hasn't gotten a show out like this in a while, I thought. And this, to me, might have even been Keith Lee's best AEW showing.
I think so, too, on that.
I thought that Swerve... Everybody always walks away from... Oh, and they're saying in the chat, it was all that talk of you to being hot heated up your camera. But I thought that, you know, Swerve... People always walk away from Swerve matches going, man, Swerve's really good. Yeah, he is. And he's going to continue to show you how good he is. But not just at the in-ring stuff. He's been showing you that since 2012. But... reminding you that he's also good at the character work. And that's the stuff he's been really working on. And you can really see how much better he's getting at that. He's got the facials down. He's got all of it. The guys, though, they just went out there and showed us what... Because a lot of people wanted to see this match for the tag team titles. And we got to see kind of what this could have been in a pay-per-view setting. Of course, the match had a commercial break. But again, it was just like Keith Lee went out there. He showed out I loved how many attempts they took at the big rig on Keith Lee without being able to necessarily hit it at first. But the big payoff in the match was that they were able to hit the big rig on Keith Lee, and it looked fantastic. I loved the superplex spot that led to Cash hitting the splash. That seemed like that was going to be the victory. One thing Dax is really good at is getting himself in a pinning position without being extremely obvious, like a lot of guys can be. Yeah. Where, you know, there's always that moment where where guys will they'll be in position for a pin to get, you know, the refs are really bad about this, by the way, where a ref will get in position for a pin and intentionally make sure their legs are near the ropes so that way a wrestler can grab them. Dax did that so seamlessly that you almost didn't even think about the fact that Swerve was about to pull him off just because he got himself in position correctly. To the point of where I thought on that pin, my information was bad. When they hit the big rig and they go 1, 2, and my brain, like, time stopped for a second. I thought, did I just get bad information? That can't be. This information's always good. It's literally bad at 1,000. And then it was 1, 2, and then Swerve pulls Dax off, and I thought, okay, there it is. And the Gun Club was, of course, at ringside. They grabbed they grabbed Cash. That then allowed for Dax to come in the ring. He still tried to get a little bit of a victory roll on Keith Lee. Swerve hits a low blow on Dax, which then allows Keith to hit his finish. 1, 2, 3. It's over. Now, 2 things the folks should have noticed there, and maybe you didn't. Yes, The low blow happened when the ref wasn't looking. That's an important detail that Excalibur got over. But the more important story detail here is that the low blow happened when Keith wasn't looking. There's story unfolding here. And it was just great stuff. I loved all of this. What did you think?
I thought the match was really great. Definitely one of Keith Lee's best recent showings and probably his best in AEW so far. I like the story they're telling between Swerve and Keith Lee because it's an overplayed story that they're managing to do differently with more subtlety. And it's more intriguing than how you usually see like two partners not getting along. Like this is different. As far as like who is gonna win, I never thought FTR were winning. I love FTR. I think they're the best tag team in the world, but they booked themselves like into a corner with them having all the belts except the AEW belt, and then the Acclaimed taking off at the same time. It's all seems like a really tough situation to get out of. Really, like, so I couldn't see FTR winning on this occasion. If their next feud is the Gun Club, though, that's definitely not maybe what they're worthy of. But
I mean, I'll say this: the Gun Club to me has every time we walk away from any situation the Gun Club has been in, especially this last year, we always kind of say the same thing, which is, oh, okay, they did pretty good there. And I feel like the Gun Club always walks out of these situations better than we expect them to. And so I think having a great showing with FTR could actually be really good for them. It could be exactly what they need.
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't think they're there yet. I think it's the position that they ended up in, you know, as Billy Gunn Sons, and then the Acclaimed thing that taking off that's kind of elevated them more, where they just need more seasoning. But you're right in what you said earlier that we don't really have enough tag teams, so maybe that's why, you know, the Gun Club is in this position to face FTR instead of other people who might seem like a better fit or more ready to do that. But the Swerve and Keith Lee stuff is interesting, and it'd be interesting to see what they can do facing the Acclaimed again, given that it's going to be third match in very quick succession.
Yes. I think the good news is both matches played off of each other and weren't really similar to each other at all. So I would love to see, what they're able to do next and what they do with it next. The next thing we saw on the show was Renee Paquette again. So first we had her backstage. She was backstage with Saraya. They were kind of gushing over each other. Britt Baker interrupts. Britt and Saraya get into an argument, and Renee loses it. She's like, "Stop! We're gonna do this formally. We're gonna do this officially. If you guys are gonna just keep bickering back and forth." And that led to the announcement later in the show that Renee is going to sit down directly with Britt and Saraya, which is probably going to lead to the match announcement. Hopefully, this is what we're getting here. So that should be cool. But the top of the stage, we saw Renee Paquette, and she brings out Maxwell Jacob Friedman to a rousing ovation. Very popular, that Maxwell. And Max decides to go off. He does his famous Moxley impersonation. Says he's gonna drink piss. This was fun. What did you think specifically of the MJF promo here?
Great promo as always from MJF. Top-notch Moxley impersonation, especially doing it in front of Moxley's actual wife. But it's just really hard. I think with Max right now, we have the crowd cheering him. He's still getting the digs in at the crowd as well.
Yes, it's actually really great stuff. The way that he still can knock the crowd, ding the crowd, but then turn it around and still get cheered for it.
It's literally like the crowd are Dominic Mysterio and he is Rhea Ripley. They just want it from him. Like, they just want it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, I liked a lot of this. Again, I feel like MJF is just feeling like he's on fire. He's so much better at this than I think anybody even recognizes he actually used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and I found, you know what I watched recently? The first Fighter Fest 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Remember MJF's promo there? He comes out and he basically rails on the that whole Daytona Beach crowd and video games, calls them all nerds, all of that.
Yeah.
Like, that was such cheap heat stuff, and there was such little depth to Maxwell back then. And then to see him now and see what he does now and see how much better at it he is now is just magnificent stuff. I can't believe how much better he is at this now. He's very good. And
he is... Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to make a controversial statement.
Okay.
Some may hate me for this. I don't give a fuck. But a couple years ago, and even earlier this year, people made comparisons between Maxwell Jacob Friedman and The Miz. It's very common. Matter of fact, CM Punk last year called him a less famous Miz. MJF is better at literally everything. There is not a single thing on this earth that a professional wrestler can do that MJF isn't better than The Miz at. Everything. Every single thing. If you're going to make the comparison, it needs to be that, wow, MJF is like Miz if Miz like sucked at everything that MJF can do. And that's it. That's how it goes. I'm sorry. There's no comparison at this stage. Even, I'll take it a step further. Remember when MJF was doing all of those interviews just a couple weeks ago, going into Grand Slam, and he did Ariel Helwani, he did Barstool, did all those interviews. You know how the one big thing people do give Miz, they're like, but Miz is a great brand ambassador. I think MJF is better at that. Genuinely. This isn't like I'm just saying this to hate. I mean, like, if you're going to make that comparison, like, MJF has even managed to be a really good brand ambassador in a way where he can promote the brand and still be MJF. And that was really, really impressive. It didn't seem like he was turning himself off, turning the character off. When he went on those shows, he went in, managed to put over AEW, managed to put over the show, managed to even put over other people on the show, and then, but reminded people, but also, I'm salt of the earth, and I'm better than you, and you know it.
I don't think that was controversial, man. I think he's like so clearly better than The Miz. Now, I might be saying something controversial, but so what you were saying before about how he's grown, completely agree with, because I've always thought Max is the absolute treasure. He is the person that AEW is luckiest to have, and he really, really is. And he's the person that when he was gone, that I've actually missed the most. There's been periods when Punk was gone. There's been periods when Omega was gone. Other people, I don't think anything stood out as much as when Max was gone. And I always thought he was amazing. But one thing I would say was the content of the promos. Like, it was a lot of cheap heat. And very repetitive sometimes, and it you could see it when he was doing like these longer feuds with Jericho and Punk, that there was repetition, and he was having to go out there, deliver these promos every single week in long feuds with the same guy. However, since the beginning, I've said that Max has had, this is a controversial statement, the greatest delivery I've ever seen in a pro wrestler, ever. He delivers his promos, no matter what he's saying, better than anyone else. I have never seen anyone exude mic confidence like Max. I can watch any other wrestler and you just pick up on things where like there's a falter here or something here where it's not perfect, and Max's delivery has always just been the most perfect thing, and now he has the content to match it, so he's only getting better, and he's only going to get even better. So he is so much better than The Miz, and I'm not even someone that thinks that like wrestlers should play their character all the time, but I don't think you can make a comparison in any way between Max and The Miz, because he's just done so well in this current age in keeping the MJF persona, whereas Miz is out there doing reality shows and being like this nice guy, and then going on TV and we all have to tell him about his balls. And it's just, it's unless he wants to like change his reality show into the storyline being that he has small balls, then he's not, he's not doing as good a job as Max is portraying that character 24/7.
I know. I said all that to say I want to see the comparison die, because like I don't think it's
a lazy comparison. I think it was based on the fact that there were some people, because he was such a good promo and because he was so young, could not accept that he was a good wrestler as well. Yeah. And I think that's what it was. People that couldn't accept he was a good wrestler were like, he's like The Miz. He just talks, and it just wasn't true.
No, it's never been true. And MJF delivers when he's out there. I love it. It's such great stuff. And he was interrupted, though, by Stokely, who implied that he was going to go after Mox with the firm. MJF, again, annoyed by Stokely, tells him, don't do it or you're fired. I want Mox at 100%. And Stokely said, read you loud and clear, walked off. What could that mean? Guess we'll find out a little bit later. But we did see Bryan Danielson one-on-one for the first time ever with Sammy Guevara. Wow, this was good. And like I knew it would be, but I'm not sure what I was expecting, but it was good. It was really good. Sammy Guevara versus Bryan Danielson was one of those matches that I probably had written down on a list of like, who would I like to see Bryan face if he goes to AEW? He is probably on that list. But I'll tell you, as Sammy's stock has dropped a lot this year, it fell off my radar of matches I thought I wanted to see. But I'm glad we saw it. They had great chemistry. I thought that they just tied up so well. And somebody in the chat just said they had great chemistry. They had great chemistry out there. They were just playing off of each other in the ring so well in a way where I can't believe I can't believe this match fell off my list of things I wanted to see. I thought that Sammy had great counters for Bryan's offense. He came off like somebody who, as he then later tweeted, actually studied Bryan. I recognize we lost you again, Stephanie.
Yeah, still here. Sorry.
It's all good. But the way that these guys just went at it out there, and Bryan came off like he had a chip on his shoulder and of annoyance from the Jericho Appreciation Society, and he was going to take it out on Sammy, but Sammy kept getting the best of him, and they just kept having this really cool, great back and forth that ended up really, I think, reminding people that Sammy still has it going on in the ring, and that, he's had some misfires this year, but for the most part, this is all really good. And but I appreciated the way Bryan defeated him, and he defeated him in such a take out my frustration kind of way. The way that he locked him in the triangle and then continued to just rain elbows on Sammy Guevara. Great stuff. I was just such a fan. Stephanie, what did you think?
I thought it was a good match, but Sammy has
there's
like
a but.
he has the most extreme go away heat I've ever experienced with someone, which is crazy because this time last year, well, maybe a little bit before that, I was a huge fan of Sammy. Like, I wanted more for Sammy, and no one has ever had their stock drop so much with me than with Sammy. It's just, the whole act is awful. I wanted Brie Bella to run in and just clean house on these two absolute fools on my TV. But it was enjoyable for how, Brian was. He was taking out those frustrations on Sammy. Sammy, he is a good wrestler, but I think a lot needs to be done with him to kind of rehab him, and like how you see him and how just he can be taken. It's just it's been just such a misfire with him. So good match, but I could have lived without seeing it.
See, Brian's my goat.
Rude.
I can't complain about seeing anything Brian.
But that's why I was like, I can't believe Brian Danielson's in a match that I don't want to see. Thanks, Sammy, for being there.
I won't harp as much, but I'll say that I don't know. I liked it. But I'll tell you what match I knew I was gonna like, but doesn't even matter. Still liked it anyway. That was Jamie Hayter versus Riho. 1-on-1. We saw this match last year in North Carolina. It wasn't Charlotte. Don't tell me, folks. It was Greensboro. I think it was Greensboro, North Carolina, right? Somebody look that up and tell me if that was if that's correct. But I'm pretty sure it was Greensboro. We saw Hayter versus Riho 1-on-1 one more time. The match delivered last time, and they did it again. Thank you, Jamie Hayter and Riho. Jamie Hayter was, of course, accompanied to the ring by Britt Baker, and not even like fully accompanied, but either way, they brought her out. Riho, not as strong of a reaction as she had the week before because she's up against a very, very popular Jamie Hayter, but still, I'd say it was like 70-30.
Hello, sorry.
But,
it's so hot in my flat. You have no idea.
It's all good. By the way, I have to say, love the Sting figure.
Thank you. I love Sting.
Well, and there's Sting stuff on this show.
He's my Wheeler Yuta. No comment.
That's it. I don't have anything else. Look, Sting was my hero as a kid, so as far as I'm concerned, there is no Sting slander around these parts. Graham B says, Jamie's twisting suplexes are the new Three Amigos. I can see that. I mean, look, there was still dueling chant in this crowd. The crowd was into, it was UBS Arena. UBS Arena? Really? That's where it was? Okay. So that would have been December 18th last year? Or 8th? December 8th last year? Huh. Okay. Damn. I was actually way off. What happened at the Greensboro show then? I know that was that main event that featured everybody dressed as Sting. That was great. But I could have sworn the Jamie match was on that show. But maybe I'm wrong. Either way, Jamie and Riho went out there. I thought they had a great match here. I thought that this was kind of a showing that Jamie needed to have. A lot of people have been wondering, when are they going to capitalize on these reactions that Jamie's been getting? This felt like the first step toward that, especially when it seems like they are gearing us up for Jamie to get the title shot against Toni Storm.
Oh, this was such a good match. Jamie and Riho are a mismatch, which makes them a perfect match. Mm-hmm. It works so well. The but Riho is so good at getting a crowd into her with what she can do. So it's great. I think you're right that this is the first step in them finally doing something with Jamie, who has got herself over so organically, with so little kind of attention just on her personally. So I thought it was great, and also glad Rio's back as well. But I can't wait to see what Jamie gets at the pay-per-view. I hope it's Toni Storm, because that'll be such a good match.
Well, after the match was over, we actually got that. We saw.
Oh, I've totally forgot.
Toni Storm did come to the stage and raise the title at Jamie. I think that's where we're heading for Full Gear. I put out a question the other day as to how Jamie should win the title. We know Jamie's going to win the title. The question was just how, and it was because whatever happens has to involve Britt. It just does.
Yeah.
People. I got people who are coming at me going, "Why don't you just not involve Britt at all?" Because you don't not pay off Jamie's story with Britt. So I said one of three things: either does Jamie defeat Britt first and then go on to the title. That was my option A. Option B was, does Britt win the title at some point and then Jamie goes after Britt? Or option C, which seemed to get a very popular, that it was a very popular option. And given the way things are going, you could actually play this one out. Option C was, does Jamie win the title and then Britt, in a bit of jealousy, comes after her? And now I would like to see option C. I'd like to see in my fantasy scenario here, which, by the way, loving Toni Storm as champion, so I wouldn't mind her reign continuing, but I recognize that the fans are screaming for Jamie Hayter. I would love to see Jamie win the title. And I know everybody's comparison is always Randy Orton getting turned on by Evolution, but that happened immediately. They had no patience. Literally, it was Randy won the title. Next night on Raw, Hunter dumps him out of Evolution. There should have been, and that's also considered like a really awful storyline. Like, that's considered what set Orton back 3 years. Whereas I think in this scenario, if you're going to do that storyline, have it play out a little bit longer. Of like, Jamie wins, Britt pretends to be happy for her, but can't help but notice she's got my belt. And as the months progress, have her like continually make like little backhanded comments, little things like that, until finally like Britt snaps and turns on Jamie. And then that's where you finally pay that story off. That's how I would do it if I were going to wait that long. But I think Jamie is proving to be very ready.
I think initially I would have gone with Jamie defeating Britt first. I think the introduction of Saraya has kind of thrown off something that could have been a great storyline between these women. But I'm not getting into that. But I think what will happen and would be a good story as well is Jamie winning the title from Toni and Britt almost being like, you know, you should kind of like give it to me type thing. You know, I'm the one in charge. So, oh, thank you. You won that for me. You know, what are we going to do this? Like almost thinking that Jamie's just going to like lay down for her or something, because that's kind of the relationship. And Britt, with how she is leading the faction, seems so self-involved that she probably, the character, doesn't realize that Jamie, A, is really popular right now, and B, can kind of eye roll her a lot. And I think they can tell a great story together with the struggle, and Reba's going to be hilarious during this whole thing as well. So, but I'm really looking forward to Jamie winning the title.
Yeah, I want to see her win. I think it's the way to go right now. I think Toni Storm's doing a great job as champion.
She really
is. I think that just the amount of defenses and appearances she's had has just all come off really well.
She's like Sheeta, like she's never going to get the full credit for just being a great champion that went out there and defended the title so often. She's not like the flashiest, she's not the talker, but she's carrying, you know, the matches. It's very like Hikaru Shida's reign, like during the pandemic. That was a great reign. That it just wasn't like fanciest reign or most exciting reign, but it was a hard working reign, and that's what Tony's doing.
Absolutely. Jennifer, shout out Jennifer, says option C is the best option. Grins. Happy belated B-Day. Will, welcome Miss Chase. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Jennifer.
Two more things to talk about on the show. There was a Darby promo. And Darby talked about some things. He mentioned how we haven't seen Sting with him lately, and he said it's because he told Sting that he was just not feeling like himself lately, that he was feeling like giving up, and Sting told him, you, the same Darby that pulled me up, that brought me back, that turned me into a wrestler again, I'm not letting him give up. And so he said, I'm going to go back on the horse. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it on my own. There's stuff around that, but probably not my place to talk about. So I'll let somebody else be that person. But I will say that I'm intrigued. And they said next week, the person that Jay Lethal was talking about last week, we're going to meet. Who could it be? Who is this person that Darby should be worried about? I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
No clue. But again, I'm intrigued. It is a way to put some interest on a match that I didn't really want to see the first time, and it was only okay the first time, and that was Jay Lethal versus Darby Allin. But we're going to see it again, but this time there's a mystery person who could show up. Somebody who knows Darby, knows Darby's weakness. I genuinely have no idea who this is.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's now that there's a Jay Lethal verse instead of the Cody verse. People just get sucked into doing things with this man. Like this man that just will not just go home and leave us all alone. But I think Darby, like, he can make the best of it. He's good at getting things out of maybe not the best story or the most story, but there's an intrigue in who this person can be. I honestly have no idea who it could be. Unless Ethan Page is doing double duty.
Chat thinks it's Miro, which...
Well, someone better find Miro. So
yeah.
If it's Jay Lethal that's tracked him down.
I mean, Miro did beat Darby for the TNT title. That is somebody who does know Darby's weakness. I don't know. I genuinely don't know at all who it is.
But I'm 100% down for it being Miro. That's really good. That's better than another new face on TV.
Yes.
Where it probably will never fully be explained how they know Darby. It's better just someone that we've seen in canon.
Well, because the chat's saying like Brody King, but like we just saw that was just a month ago. I don't know who it could be.
He wouldn't be a reveal because Brody King's always there. So yeah.
Now I suppose one place where if it is Miro, it was kind of like in front of our eyes the entire time, which is if you go and look at all, and I just thought of this because for whatever reason I do have event posters memorized. If you look at all of the event posters coming up for all of the upcoming weeks, the only event that has Miro on the poster is next week's show.
Oh.
So, I mean, if that's the case.
Okay, yeah.
That one would have been spelled out for us the entire time. So I would laugh if that is the case.
I really hope that's the case.
I just had to pull those up just to be certain because I'm pretty sure I remembered seeing Miro on a poster for one of the upcoming events. And sure enough, it is Baltimore, the Chesapeake.
It wasn't just the side of a milk carton.
No, but it was Chesapeake Employers Insurance Arena has Miro. The three people on the front are Miro, MJF, and Jon Moxley, straight up front. So, I don't know. But then again, Adam Cole is on the poster for this Friday's Rampage, and I don't think that's the case.
Don't be starting rumors.
Yeah, so I don't know. But, speaking of which, this Friday, they also announced for next Wednesday, Chris Jericho is going to be facing a former Ring of Honor World Champion. And there's lots of people speculating as to who that could be, because there is a very long list just inside of AEW as to who that could be. No clue who it could be. I mean, like, there's a piece of me that'd be really excited if it's like Nigel McGuinness could have another match. That'd be cool. But genuine, no idea.
So I have no idea either. But I want either Nigel, if he can, or Loki are my two that I want. I feel like if it's this is another thing that's really hard as well, because the idea of saying I will challenge any former champion, and I felt like when I rewatched the promo today, that promo was not, the sound was not good on that promo.
No. And the Excalibur even addressed that.
Yeah, it was very bad. But I felt like he was talking about basically anyone that had held gold in Ring of Honor rather than just a world champion, because he seemed to like mention that rather than honing in on world champions. But this one is just so hard, because when you bring people in, like one of my favorites, Dalton Castle, was the last one that we saw brought in, and it's kind of, you can never give them like the fanfare that they deserve. And I don't just mean that by like a fancy entrance. You're kind of like, for the audience, okay, this guy is a former Ring of Honor champion, and that's really about it. And then they get beaten, so it doesn't look that great. But then if you just pick someone from the roster that's been a Ring of Honor champion, like Bryan Danielson or Claudia, whatever, then it's not very exciting, because when someone like says, I challenge anyone, you don't, the expectation is it's not going to be someone from like the locker room. The expectation makes it higher. Yeah. So it's such a hard thing to book. I love the Jericho's Ring of Honor world title run, and that he's doing this, even if I see these like holes and complications in it. And even if I'm like the first person to say like there's too many people being shown on TV on like a monthly basis that we either don't see again or whatever, I am that person. But I'm also the person that's like, well, this better be Loki coming in. Yeah. I am both those people. So
there are so many cool options they can run with. Loki would be really cool.
So cool.
MC Scammer says, speaking of ROH belts, am I in the minority that the titles just don't feel that valuable? I just don't get excited like I do for the AEW titles. I don't think you're in the minority.
You're definitely not.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. I spoke to somebody who said they stopped watching AEW because of too much featuring of Ring of Honor. The
titles, we've not been given a reason to feel the titles are valuable that Ring of Honor has, except this world title with what they're doing with it.
Yeah. So, no, you're not in the minority at all. And so finally, we shall wrap up by talking about the main event, in which we saw Jon Moxley take on Penta El Cero Miedo. And this was less remarkable than I would have liked it to be. I think I got more excited at the idea of the match than it actually happening, but it was fine.
It was fine.
Yeah, that was it. I almost think that MJF did a little harm to the match by doing such a good crowd-pleasing impersonation of Jon Moxley. I think he took a lot of the wind out of Moxley's sails for the match later, because I feel like the crowd wasn't as into Moxley as they probably would have been had they seen him maybe first. And so I just feel like it kind of brought the match down. It was fine. It was a fine main event. That's about it. But yeah, I thought it was, I don't know. That's it. That's what I can say. It's like almost unremarkable.
It was a match that needed to happen because they were going to do an angle. Like,
yes,
that's literally how I feel about it, because there was no build other than that video that was so not a build that you now feel bad for asking for a build if that's what you got.
Yeah.
And
that's a really good observation.
Like it was. And, if Moxley was doing a thing like with what we were saying that Jericho's doing, where he was like, I'll challenge anyone like every week, then that's totally fine. He can have all those random matches. But this one, it just did feel to me like, who can we have Moxley in a match with that he can beat? Like, no one was buying that Penta was winning this match, and that's it. And there's an angle that we have to do, which, you know, with what happened with the title match the week before, who knows how booking got changed or whatever. So it was a fine match. It was, as my friend Benno would say, it was two professional wrestlers having a professional wrestling match.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And Moxley won. He hit Paradigm Shift followed by a Death Rider, or Death Rider followed by a Paradigm Shift. Depends on who you're asking, I guess. But either way, he hit them both. He wins 1, 2, 3. Then out comes the Firm. They jump Jon Moxley. I could have sworn MJF told them earlier that they'd be fired if they touched Jon Moxley. What's going on here? MJF comes out to the top of the stage. He's initially like, what are you guys doing? He starts to turn around, and then he runs to the ring and tells them to stop. He points at Stokely, tells him he's fired, turns back to Moxley, says a couple words to him, then turns around, and the Firm beats up MJF. They destroy MJF. They put him through a table, the timekeeper's desk. What's going on here?
This was super. I don't know what to say about this. There's a couple of kind of negative things that I want to say. Firstly, I do feel that Jon Moxley has been plugged into something that wasn't made for Jon Moxley, that was made for CM Punk.
Yes.
And the holes in the story are there.
Side note, really quick, without Jon Moxley here, you don't get the Regal stuff.
Yeah, I think that was an add-in though.
Yeah.
But it's the Blackpool Combat Club. They're having this big feud with the Jericho Appreciation Society, and then at the end of this Dynamite, they get locked in a closet by a totally different faction. And those kind of things, that just made me feel like, okay, Jon Moxley's still in the Blackpool Combat Club. I just feel like if CM Punk was still around, Jon Moxley would be involved in the Blackpool Combat Club JAS stuff, instead. And that was...
Hey, Moxley said he was supposed to take 6 weeks off. We're just now getting back he'd just now be getting back from vacation.
Yeah, to join his friends against the JS, to probably challenge for the Ring of Honor title. But, that's not what happened. So anyway, the Firm, I don't want to be too down on them. But for this being a faction beatdown, it, to me, didn't have the impact that it would have if it was guys that we were more used to, more established, and also guys that we felt could actually go a little bit further. It was, I don't know, it gave me, I don't want to say this, but I will say it. It gave me Retribution vibes.
Ooh, that wasn't what I was expecting you to say at all, but
I
mean, I can't say that's unfair. I like everybody in Blackpool. I mean, in the Firm.
I like them too. I just mean, like, I'm just going to use the example of another faction, but imagine if, like, a year into the Inner Circle, Santana and Ortiz, Sammy, and Jake had got together and done this to Jericho. It would be like a whoa thing. And this is like, big cast. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure, can't really name every member of the Firm yet because we just haven't seen enough of them. And for just a big blowout angle, I know, like, the main point is MJF and what is MJF's plan, and if he's really a good guy or if this is another part of his plan or whatever. But I think the supporting cast were not who I would have picked to support the great main players.
That is a hot take.
Oh!
The chat is on it. No, some are like, I see somebody saying early Retribution vibes maybe, but recent Retribution no. Somebody gave you a hot take. Jennifer said that was perfect. Firm Tribution. I mean, you set the chat off. I'll give you that.
No, I'm gonna have to change my name.
Well, I've offered you plenty of synonyms there at the bottom. So
True.
So if you want to become Stephanie Follow, you are more than welcome to.
Stephanie Hunt sounds good.
Yes.
Sorry.
So we got to wrap the show because I have to go because we have Ask Rhapsody coming up here very, very shortly. I think it's really funny. Thank you, BMAC, on Twitter, that I said earlier, I made that point about having talked to an unnamed wrestler, and I literally see myself tagged in a tweet that says, Will from Grapsody just stated that he spoke with an unnamed wrestler that said that there might be a Ring of Honor show happening. That's how easily I can say things on this show, and all of a sudden it's a thing. So that was why I bit my tongue earlier on something I probably could have said, but don't have. I don't think I have the cash to top that one. Like I said, I would leave that to somebody else. So this is where we talk about some good old-fashioned ratings. So, 997, and so 3,000 shy of a million, which is of course going to lead Twitter users to argue over literally 3,000. By the way, margin of error on these is 10,000, so keep that in mind before you start arguing with people over 3,000. But yes, it's 997, so just shy of a million. It came in under ESPN's basketball airings, which both did 1.8 million and 1.79 million, so I could have just said 1.8 for either one. So basically, ESPN held 3 of the top 4 spots. Real Housewives had number 3. That actually did a really big rating for Real Housewives. And then number 5 was All Elite Wrestling Dynamite. So still broke top 5. Didn't beat any of the games, but it did beat The Challenge, which used to be its biggest Wednesday night competitor. And now all of a sudden, Reg, you got to get on supporting The Challenge again because you're not beating, you're not helping it beat AEW. Chi-Town Spur says, wow, I totally disagree. Felt like this was the first time they felt like a big deal. That was on the topic of the firm. I'm interested. I'll say this. I agree with Chi-Town Spurs there. This is the first time I'm truly interested in the firm. And so I'm curious where this is going because it all happened so fast. Literally, we just revealed the firm and MJF's alliance at the beginning of, at the end of the last pay-per-view. So what's going on? Why is this happening so quick? I don't know. But we have to part because my son got out of school 3 minutes ago and I got to go get him. So, Stephanie, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Stephanie M. Chase, Stephanie M. Chase on Instagram, Stephanie Chase Wrestling on YouTube, and I do a lot of TikTok nowadays, and I am Stephanie M. Chase on TikTok as well.
Yeah. I'm still too, I guess, over the hill for TikTok. Although, hey, Elon Musk just bought Twitter, so I may have to find a new home. I don't know how that's going to turn out. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this week's edition of Day After Dynamite. If you're subscribed to Fightful Select, in about 15 minutes, I'll be right back with Righteous Reg and Philip Lindsay. But otherwise, join us next week for another edition of Day After Dynamite. Same time, 3 p.m. Eastern, and that is noon Pacific right here at youtube.com/Fightful. For Stephanie Chase, I'm Will Washington. I will see you next time. Have a great day. Peace.